Our presentation is called Conquering COVID, an exploration of future educational strategies and job market revitalization. This is us, group one, and this is our introduction. So the thesis for our presentation is, in wake of COVID-19 and the proliferation of online school and work, integrating policies that incorporate a more collaborative approach to education and a smoother transition to the job market will be essential in ensuring that young people have the tools to thrive in the digital age. We had 3 research questions pertaining to this thesis. First, how can institutions better equip students for prospective careers in the rapidly changing job market and help ensure they're satisfied with their choices? Second, how can students develop critical thinking and communication skills necessary in the workplace? And third, what accommodations should be made to better accommodate the new online medium of work and school? In regards to this, we have 3 policy suggestions. First, guidance, providing guidance to students before they decide to enroll in post-secondary education or the trades. Second, establishing a more interactive and holistic approach to online learning using active learning strategies. And third, providing career counseling to meet the demands of a growing work culture that is adopting shorter work weeks or work done entirely from home.
So the first suggestion pertaining to Canada is to adopt a countrywide CEGEP or internship period. So if you aren't familiar with CEGEP, it's a pre-university program lasting from 6 months to 3 years. And this replaces the last year of high school, and it's mostly hosted in Quebec. So the advantages of adapting a program like this nationwide would be to really foster exploration in a low-risk environment where students can get a better understanding of the realistic workforce and their personal interests. So one good example of this is the Farm Management Technology CEGEP program that's put on through McGill University in Montreal. So this is a highly effective program because it's incredibly market aligned. And although it is 3 years long, it provides students with all the information and skills that they need to enter the workforce immediately. Remember, this replaces the need for a costly 4-year degree. As well, the program size is quite small, so this allows for sort of a gentle transition from high school, but still gives them enough of a challenge that they can pursue further interests. And in regards to the trades, for those who are not looking for university, that's where a 1-year internship or shadowing year can fill that gap.
In Japanese case, it's practically impossible to take a year off for an internship during or after high school like Canada because we have entrance exams for universities. So instead, we suggest providing high school students with an opportunity to speak to the professionals or experience actual work for 1 to several days. The photos are the picture of usual Japanese job fairs you attend when you're in your 3rd or 4th year in college, and this is the biggest opportunity for most students to think about their career. But by offering a chance to know the actual working environment of the job they're interested in before entering college, high school students will be able to choose their major successfully without just judging from imagination or seeking for stability.
So in terms of education, a lot of the presenters have already mentioned some of these aspects previously, but currently in Canada, it's being held either synchronously, which is live, or asynchronously, which is independently. So some ways that we can make online learning a little bit more interactive and intuitive for students would be to provide greater interactivity, to ask more challenging questions during online sessions, to provide greater flexibility for assignments and due dates, and having backup plans for pandemic situations such as power outages, issues with weather, other things that might come up like that. Having smaller modules for classes, so the classes don't go any more than 30 minutes, maybe breaking them up instead of having a 1-hour straight lecture, 2-hour straight lecture, 3-hour straight lecture. Recording the lectures for reference for the students, providing self-learning material, which would be done independently in case students find that a little easier than attending a live lecture, and having teaching assistants to help manage the online lectures and tools more effectively, so everything can work a lot more streamlined with the students and the teachers.
When we think about the students' engagement, there's a concept called active learning in Japan. It is a recently introduced teaching method promoted by the Japanese government as an alternative to the traditional passive learning. This is basically what Dylan explained before, focusing on interaction and connections. I guess this has been very common in Canada for a long time, but in Japan, just listening to the lectures and not asking any questions or saying any opinions during the class were very normal. Students are just not used to them. And that's why the government is trying to promote this active learning. Because of the recent online classes, however, there's been less opportunities to interact with professors or other students. But some professors say that online tools such as breakout rooms or online materials are pretty compatible with active learning. So we should take advantage of these unique online characteristics. And critical thinking and communication skills developed by these methods will have positive impact on future job interview and working performance.
Last policy suggestion is how students in Canada and Japan can adjust to new working culture. Almost 50% of all meetings in Google Japan are held online. 90% of employees in KDDI, one of the biggest telecommunication companies in Japan, worked remotely during the April 2020 state of emergency. In January 2021, 22% of employees in Japan worked remotely under the current state of emergency. It is said that the number of working remotely is still low, even it has been getting popular in Japan. And in Canada, Google Canada has allowed for most of its employees to work from home until July 2021. An Angus Institute study has suggested that 2/3 of Canadians who work remotely expect to continue after pandemic. Facebook, Shopify, and OpenText employees will be able to work remotely as a permanent option. So it is believed that the demands of working from home in Canada will keep increasing in the future. Nextly, how was student job searching influenced by new working culture? Japanese senior students basically start job searching in March and finish it by August. However, they had to extend the job searching term because the recruitment activities were suspended during the April 2020 state of emergency. Additionally, junior students started job searching earlier than usual, since more companies started their recruitments early in case of a future request to work from home. To adapt to the new normal, university career services should change their support for students. For instance, most of counseling career fairs have moved online, but career services should also keep in-person counseling to hear students' voice directly. And also, career services have more seminars in preparation for online interviews.
In Canada, we're already seeing how the work culture is changing with a lot more jobs available for remote work. For instance, Job Bank Canada lists that over 11,600 jobs are currently available, which is actually double that of the agri-food culture currently, that section. Career Services Canadian universities have to adapt to this change, so they should provide more resources and information about this current job market where remote work is thriving. In this case, if students are looking to pursue a career in a job that might have remote work, they need to consider some of the lifestyle changes that would be necessary to succeed in that field, as opposed to an in-person career.
So given the wide scope of what we suggested, it's really important to evaluate sort of the feasibility of the suggested policy areas, which we've done. So some of the pros are that many of the policies we've suggested here, particularly those on guidance and education, are actually quite feasible, realistically could be implemented within the next 3 to 5 years. As well, the policies suggested provide more flexibility to students, meaning the possibility of an increased enrollment as more and more students become familiar and comfortable with the medium of online learning. And in terms of cons, changes to the job market and educational system may be difficult to achieve in Japan due to deeply rooted cultural norms and values about how the career and educational systems work. Increased flexibility also means increased competition. So as prospective applicant pools will now include people worldwide for those remote positions, it'll be a bit more of a challenge for Canadian and Japanese students alike. And finally, the long-term effects of COVID-19 are still more or less unknown at this time. It's kind of unclear whether or not online learning and remote work will create permanent structural changes in the foreseeable future, although I highly suspect that they will. And with that, I conclude our presentation. I want to thank everyone for paying attention so late into the night or into the day. And thank you very much. And we look forward to any and all questions you have.
Thank you very much. And our sources are just our bibliographies right here.
Fascinating presentation. Thank you. This idea of a Canada-wide, I really appreciated how you gave models for Canada and Canadian cultural environments in Japan and Japanese environments. So talk a little bit about the Canada-wide CEGEP and the days long, you said something like several days long discussion groups that they would happen in Japan to introduce these sort of mentorship moments, I think. You know, in Canada, colleges are controlled by each province. Is that the same in Japan? What are the differences or similarities there?
In Canada, there's provinces, and they have really strong each power, I guess. Each government has really strong power, but in Japan, national government is the strongest in the country. So when the national government enacts a law about the like we suggested about mentoring, then I guess not all the high schools in Japan will be able to do the same.
I have a quick question, and it's kind of been a theme throughout asynchronous learning, levels of interaction. But one of the things that I haven't seen, and I'd love it if I could get some comments on this, is in a distributed workforce or a distributed learning environment. One of the challenges is how do you maintain trust or credibility so that the value of the degree and the sort of the integrity of the degree holds over time. Did you put any thought into how do you maintain trust in that kind of system?
Yeah, we did think about that, and we thought about adding it on, but it was just too much and too out of scope. But in terms of, tailoring degree programs, I think what we're seeing is more and more specialized programs. For example, I know Google, in fact, looks at a sort of a shortened program that they offer to replace a 4-year degree. So I think we're moving towards specialization. What that entails for trust, I think that means, the private sector will be more trustful of those sorts of programs, which is why I think sort of CJEP and an internship year or semester fits in nicely, because they can really easily adapt to those and structure themselves around those. In terms of trust in institutions, traditional models, it will change. I think it's hard to say at this point what that change will look like, if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
You have offered a number of critiques about the current education system insofar as you were making proposals. And I'm wondering what the purpose of post-secondary education is in your mind. Very often we hear that it should be some kind of a training ground for jobs, for employment. But what else should post-secondary education offer you? And if you could just for a moment reflect on the positives of what you have already gained out of your post-secondary education.
Well, I think right now it's kind of tough because everything is online to necessarily view things, totally positive. I think that's why there's kind of a negative spin around it right now, because people like to see things in person. They like to be in person. They like to interact with people. They like to see people face to face. That's part of how you read experiences and situations. I think, though, that if things are online, if these online systems happen, one positive that could come out of it is even what we've just accomplished here today. We've built connections across the world, right? We're able to connect with people from all over the world and gain perspectives that we can't necessarily gain in one place when you're grounded. So I think that that's a huge thing. And I think that the value of education that'll start to come through online learning in the years to come, as we realize that we have the whole world essentially, for use for the most part. We can go online, we can connect with people right away. It's instantaneous. So those are some of the positives that could come out of it, where the lacking social interaction might exist.
If I can just quickly add on to that, the reason we kind of took a more critical approach in this presentation is because I think, especially in Canada, in my province, there is a very growing concern with how the economy is going to recover from this. So that's why it's sort of tailored more towards jobs, but that's not, of course, any boon on what we've learned. And speaking to Dylan's experience, of course, our ability to network internationally has been great.
I can speak to that in Japanese view because post-secondary education would be different. In Japan would be different from in Canada. So a little bit. I think the purpose of going to having the post-secondary education in Japan is that I think to open our views to society. In the high school in Japan, we're studying a lot and just like remembering our like Japanese history, and not a few opportunities to know about what the society actually is going on, such as like international issues and also the domestic issues too. And also they have a very in post-secondary education would be a very good chance for Japanese students to like make their own decisions. So what's their life is going on.